All right. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the weekly Citizen Council live stream. I am Chris Castleman.
And I'm Brandy Martindale.
Got a cool little show for you tonight. We're going to cover a range of local and national issues. Video you just watched was a little teaser. A few friends of mine and we toured a bum encampment near Blossom Gulch Elementary School in Coos Bay. We're going to talk about a little more about that later in the show. And one thing that's occurred to me last week is that we've done a few of these virtual events and we've never actually explained the purpose of our group. So one way to explain it, I'll start with a few questions. Does the government seem out of control to you? Are you tired of politicians who don't listen? Have our leaders strayed too far from the philosophies upon which America was founded? Citizen Council is a place to discuss local issues and solutions through a lens of traditional, common sense values. We're organizing and encouraging regular citizens, just like you, to work on the things that our local elected officials should be working on, but for one reason or another, they have let fall through the cracks. Now, how can you let fundamental responsibilities like public safety and budgeting fall through the cracks? That's beyond me, but here we are living in Coos County where crime goes unchecked and our government claims they are out of cash. So speaking of out of cash, I was eating at Ty's Dynasty in North Bend the other night, and I overheard this guy lecturing the waiters and waitresses. It was like right before closing, so they were kind of all joking around. But they were this guy was lecturing them on like, this is how you make it in life, and he's explaining to them that you either work for the local, state, or federal government. Why? Because you get this massive pension, and he was bragging about how he has like 2 different pensions, and it was like so embarrassing to watch this guy sit there and like essentially brag to normal like low minimum wage workers that all their taxes and all our taxes go to paying his pension so he can sit there and eat Chinese food. It was ridiculous.
It's
I don't
insanely
know.
tone deaf.
It was pretty bad. That like, what do you think about PERS, the government pension program for Oregon?
It's funny you should mention that. I actually had a conversation about that exact issue over the weekend with a friend who works for the county. And I was asking about whether or not an elected official could opt out of PERS. My interest was if a person wanted to remain, because I think if you're in a public position, if you're an elected official or if you're appointed to represent the electorate, you shouldn't be there's a conflict of interest if you're too deeply embedded within the system. You can't really advocate the same way because you're advocating, you're in a position where it's your own best interest versus the best interest of the public. And so my question was, can a city or county employee actually opt out of PERS? And we had a conversation about that. I do think that there's an interesting crossover between public sector and private sector, where public sector is kind of utilizing the labor tactics of the private sector. It's a weird thing. I don't know enough about it to really have a strong opinion, but there is definitely something about it that gives me an ick.
I just don't understand why they can't do it like a normal private business would, where you have like a 401k, you contribute
Right,
to it, and then when you're done, if you've saved enough, you can go off and live off that retirement fund, just like a
right,
normal company would.
right.
Here's, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. Did it work? Yep, there. This is from the city of Coos Bay, and this is their annual PERS cost. This is straight from their yearly budget. I mean, this is just like, that's not sustainable. That's more than double. That's like, I don't know the math there, but it's like 125% from what it was 10 years ago. I mean, like, look at that graph. Where are we going? How is that even possibly sustainable? and they claim we're out of money, and it's like, no, we have lots of money. We have more money than we used to. You just keep spending it all in ridiculous fashion. I don't know. That wasn't really one of my topics for tonight, but I just, yeah, sitting there
I
eating
did
in
see
North
something.
Bend, and it was just like this guy's telling everybody how awesome his pension is, and I couldn't believe it. I don't even think he was drunk. At least he was just an asshole.
So there, I have seen some stuff doppled throughout the news about pensions. Actually, the state or government-run pensions actually bankrupting states or counties. And I am trying to find what I was looking for, but it looks like these pensions are a huge financial burden. And it's hard to say, okay, we want these people to be able to retire and live comfortably, but why the heck is my taxpayers going to someone to live significantly, like have a way better situation than the average taxpayer? Like you're saying in that restaurant, it seems kind of unfair that these people are living so well off the backs of people who are really struggling to get by.
It was super tone deaf. Here, Andre says, "Thank you for the work. Thank you, Andre, for watching, being a fan. We appreciate you." Deb put a link for people in the chat on Facebook. I believe that's where you can look up all the current pension benefits for current employees. So thank you, Deb, for that. So a couple days ago, I was on Facebook, and Base and Tackle Rob, he goes by Doug Washington on Facebook. We talked about it the last meeting, the last live stream. And he posts this video. Let me try and get it up. He's always posting stuff, and lately he's been catching criminals. And this was insane. This was a mail thief.
This is this is and this is insane when our law enforcement is pushing the seatbelt safety, initiative while this is going on. And again, it's the tone deafness. Like, guys, can we have can we do something about this?
Yeah, and these people, they're just riding around on their bikes at night. Anyone in Coos County has seen this scene. And then, crime of opportunity. Up, little mailbox action. I'm just going to go take that mail. I'm going to go to the next one. What they don't know is that Rob set up a sensor in that mailbox. So when she pulled it open, it set off an alarm in his house. And let me see. He goes down. He actually runs out after him, chases him down, gets the mail back, and scares the shit out of them so bad that he even gets their bicycles. Sorry, the
Oh yes, I
software
saw
I'm
his
using.
post about that.
And this is him carrying the bicycles back. And they're screaming at him. I don't know if you can hear this.
Come and get him.
Can you hear them screaming in there? They're screaming all sorts of threats at him, telling him to come get me, but they won't. There's another angle of this. I don't know if I have it, but you can see. I think he's carrying an axe in his arm. It's crazy. And he calls the cops, and they arrest the guy, but not for what you think. It's because he had a warrant. He's like a sex offender, so he hadn't registered, and that's how they ended up getting him. They actually didn't even get the girl. The girl's the one who stole the mail, but I guess because it must be a misdemeanor or something, and it's not something they're going to prosecute. I don't know. I didn't talk to any of the cops, but I'm sick of that. It's crazy. I mean, that video is very, very crystal clear what happened, and yeah, let me try and
dealt
get the
with the
video.
same thing out here in Fairview. After months and months and months of trying to get someone prosecuted, trying to get the vehicles that they were using to commit crimes impounded, and this was before the jail closure, long before the whole year of before the jail closure, and nothing happened. I mean, there was no follow through. There was a couple of deputies who were pretty interested in trying to pursue it, but they got a lot of pushback, and that definitely helped me make my decision whether or not our jail even needed to be funded if they're not going to get rid of my local criminals that are not constantly stealing. I mean, constantly driving illegally. None of them have licenses, no insurance. They've wrecked. They were cited for wrecking. That they actually got in trouble for. But when they're not holding these people and actually like doing anything to curb their behavior, why spend more money on law enforcement when they're not going to do anything about the crime?
It's crazy. It's a whole slew of issues. I mean, you've got budget problems, you've got hiring and retention issues, you've got state problems, you've got federal problems, but we've got to do something. This is unacceptable. I mean, look at this guy getting arrested here, and then I don't know if it's going to show it again, but his girlfriend comes out and they just smooch. Like it's just another day in the neighborhood. I mean, and they're, by the way, they're at some random person's house. This is a stranger's house. Like they ran from the homeowner who was chasing them that he took their mail, and they knock on the door of this house. The guy lets them in, and the criminals actually called the cops, which is the crazy part about it. And I don't know why the girl's still at the house. Like there's so many questions for this.
That's suspicious.
Crazy. Let me I think I had one more video from a different angle.
Hey, pro tip, when a random crackhead knocks on your door, don't let him in your house. That's suspicious.
Right?
Come and get him.
He's very mad, and he rightfully so. And I'm pretty sure that's an axe. I'm pretty sure he went after him with an axe, which is like warrior status. But I mean, just
I prefer a machete, but that's.
But good for him. I mean, good for him. Even like going and wiring up his mailbox, and I believe he's going to put out some videos like showing how to do that.
Yep.
Let me so yeah, the other night I go out, or it was just before sunset, we go out and we toured a bum camp. Now this is like behind Blossom Gulch Elementary School. And I'd been there before and I've seen some camps and they were pretty bad, but I've never seen anything. Oop, that was the wrong video. Never seen anything quite this bad. So this is Elrod, and then at the end of Elrod, it's a dirt road, and everything to the right is school district property. So if you head off the road, you look over the ridge, and it's like this, the whole way down. So way down below here is where the school is, the backside of the school property, and about half of this is on school district property, and half of it is on private property. And so that's a problem. They kind of have pushed them off of the school board property and onto this private property. And some of these were, abandoned. They're not there anymore. But we did interview some people yesterday, and I'll have those videos next week. It's a lot for me to process and edit and stuff. These were easier, and most of this is unedited here. So you take a right on the road and you go up over the ridge, and then so this is us just walking down this hillside, and it's just camp after camp after camp. And then we finally get down to the bottom, and you'll see what it looks like. But it's absolutely insane at the bottom. It's the biggest homeless encampment I've ever seen in my life. And the problem is I know some of the people that have been living there based on like scanner and police logs, police scanners and police logs. they're criminals. Like they're not just like, oh my gosh, it's a homeless person or a mentally ill person. Like these are legit criminals, like people stealing stuff from Fred Meyer. Like there have been, oh my gosh, on the scanner, somebody just stole something from Fred Meyer. They've got a shopping cart. They just crossed Highway 101. Now they're passing Dollar Tree. They're headed up Elrod. Oh, we lost them in the woods. And this is where they go. Like
Yep.
there are Fred Meyer shopping carts. Fred Meyer just got new shopping carts, like I think it was a year and a half ago. And they're all scattered in these woods.
Oh,
So
wow.
like you can timestamp it based on what type of carts are back there. And there's Walmart carts back there. There's Safeway, Dollar Tree. I mean, Walmart is very far from this location. And there's Walmart carts back there.
And something
And
people,
so yeah,
I think, aren't really, we're not being told the full story by our government officials. And I don't mean just locally. I mean statewide, nationally. Putting these people in a physical home will not solve this problem. Like you said, these are not people that are just down on their luck. These are criminals, whether they're mentally ill or drug addicted. These people are at this position that they're in their life because they have hurt everyone who's tried to help them. So they have no cousins, no aunt and uncles, no parents, no siblings, no grandparents. Nobody in their own family wants anything to do with them. And before we paint them as victims, we need to understand that a person who's just down on their luck doesn't necessarily end up in a situation like this, and they sure as heck do not stay in a position like this. For a person who is not drug addicted or is willing to go into a rehab program, there are resources for them. For a person who does not have a criminal history, there are resources for them. People who do not have behavioral issues, there are resources. People do not have to live like this. They are living like this because of the choices that they've made that have destroyed the social safety net that a person needs to have to avoid situations like this when things do go wrong in life.
and there's different types of camps. Like I've been to certain camps where you can tell that a lot of the stuff was kind of like trash picked over. It's just stuff that no one would really want. It's kind of broken, weird toys and things like that. This one, it's like filled with stuff that you would get from a grocery store. It's filled with parts from nice bicycles, like not wrecked bicycles. Like these are pretty expensive bikes. And I think what they do, or not, I know what they do. They come down here after stealing a bike and they switch out all the parts. So if they end up getting caught, there's nothing really that the cops can do because it doesn't look like most people don't know their bike serial number. So they're kind of screwed if they lose a bike. Sorry, it's like skipping, but I was trying to get back to the spot where it shows all those bike tires.
It's basically a
and
bicycle
rims.
shop. God, that baby
Yep.
crib is super disturbing. I hope someone had like a puppy or something in it and not an actual child.
Well, and then like you'll find like wagons. Like I don't know if you've ever gone to the hardware store and gone to buy a like Gorilla Cart wagon. They're like $350. Like they'll be in here too, and it's like, did somebody give that to you or did you steal it? I mean, I don't know.
I would bet that the vast majority of this stuff is stolen.
It's
Camping supplies are probably donations, but a lot of that is probably stolen stuff.
so yeah. I mean, I don't know if anybody watching this show does this, but yeah, if people are out there donating, I'm sure some of that goes to people who are really in need, but like a lot of it goes to. I mean, I guess I shouldn't quantify it. I don't know, but like it's going to people like this, guaranteed.
If you
They
want to
don't care
donate,
about the stuff.
donate to an organization like AYA, the Alternative Youth Activities. They are keeping kids off the street and educating them so that they can do well in life and become productive members of society. These are largely teens who have been abandoned or have escaped abuse situations. And so if you want to donate, there are women and children's shelters There are quite a few organizations here in Coos Bay. I think the Maslow Center is unfortunately not with us any longer, but there are places where you can donate because a lot of the homeless people, this is only a small portion of the homeless in Coos County. The vast majority of our homeless are, like we mentioned in previous podcasts, they are the underhoused. And so they are the abandoned teens or people who are genuinely going through hard times, and they're being temporarily housed. There are places, there are transitionary houses for people who are recovering from addiction and things like that. There are a lot of different demographics of homeless, and it is, you make a good point. When you give to someone who is literally standing on the street corner, you're likely contributing to this right here. They're not going to take that money and go buy, socks. They're going to go buy drugs.
Yeah,
Or
worse.
buy alcohol or
I don't have the videos tonight, but there was a guy that's always stands on the corner between Fred Meyer and Safeway, and I had always seen him there, begging for money. And then a friend and I were at Mingus Park one night, and he came up to us asking for this one girl, and it turns out I just got a weird vibe, and I go, is she a hooker? Like, are you looking for a hooker? And he's like, oh yeah, and he tells us all about it. And so yeah, it turns out that like this guy begs on the corner for money for hookers. And I confronted him on video one day, and he, it was for a friend, right? Like the excuse he always, oh, it's for a friend. But
Right.
I don't know. It's like, it feels really weird. I got involved maybe a year or two ago heavily in like politically campaigning against stuff like this that you're watching right now on the screen to get this cleaned up. And it's like, I'm almost like immune to it now. I'm just sitting here calm. I'm talking like we've been very calm talking about this. And for people who are new to our program or like new to you and I, it's like, don't get us wrong. This is absolutely fucking insane and has to end immediately. It's unacceptable. It's absolutely crazy. Our elected officials are not doing their jobs. They're not even close. They don't care. And here's another one. This is the creek. This creek runs to the school, and it's like they put the trash in the creek, and then they're like playing and like filtering the water, I get, or like damming up the water for drinking it, and there's just garbage. Not at this location, but at another one, there were needles right there in the creek. It smells. It's absolutely horrible. I don't know where they're going to the bathroom out here. I would assume they're like digging holes and then burying it. But it's like, this is absolutely unacceptable. And I've talked about this at city council meetings. I've talked to the county commissioners about this. No one's doing anything about this. There's not a single city councilor or county commissioner in Coos Bay or North Bend or at the county level or at the state level who's doing anything about this. Not a single one, and not a single one of them who will talk about it or address it.
Well, they don't talk about it.
Maddening.
They just don't talk about it. It's wild. How could this be going on right under your nose in your city that you run, and you don't even talk about it? And this is inhumane. Regardless, I don't have a lot of sympathy for these people that end up in this situation because I grew up very close to it, and I know what kind of people end up in these situations. So I can't be gaslit. But it is still inhumane. It's inhumane to the public who has to interact with severely mentally ill and drug addicted people. Many of them are violent. And it's inhumane to the people who cannot self sustain. These people can't take care of themselves. They don't, whether it is behavioral or whether it is, a cognitive kind of like disability, a mental illness that they're not going to be able to overcome. These people they can't survive on their own. And so for us, for the solution to be, we just close the institutions because that's violating their rights. And we allow them to live like this in squalor, in drug addicted squalor. And they pat themselves on the back and think they did a good job. This is awful. It's not right to let people live like this.
It's insane. It's insane and unacceptable, and they all need to be replaced. Every single one of them. All of our elected leaders.
when you said, we look at this and we talked about this, we talk about it so calmly because we are desensitized to it. That is so important for people to understand. We're becoming desensitized to chaos and squalor, and we shouldn't. We should never get to a point where we think, this is fine. This is just the way some people live.
I
It's
think
not
part
acceptable.
of it that it seems to me like I'm desensitized to it, but I know in my heart that it's just that I know that yelling and getting upset about it isn't going to do anything anymore, and we need to
Right.
run for public office, and we need to organize and be strategic and smart about this. So that's part of what this group is about. So if there's anybody out there listening who wants to fix this and be a part of it, please contact one of us. Upcoming this May, there's every taxing district in our county, I believe, has probably at least half of their positions available. So you've got, school boards, you've got the library board, you've got the airport district, the college district, and a lot of them own land. And part of this camp is on school board land. So school board District 9 in Coos Bay has, I believe, 4 seats up for re-election. So run for them. Please help us. I'm most likely going to run for one of those seats. I'm in school district 9, and that their land butts right up against this. And that actually reminds me of something I did this Saturday, and I'm going to be doing it every Saturday. Is I have a little thing called Coffee with a Conservative, and this was the one from last week. So this next week, it's actually going to change times from 9 to 11, but I'll still be there at 8 just in case there's some people that didn't get the memo. But this was Kevin Dubasar. He met with us last week. He was on the school board, and we actually talked about the bum encampments on the school board property, and he's awesome. He's like the school board member you would want to talk to if you don't want to start punching a wall after the conversation. Like he talks like a normal person. He gets it. He's one of us. And after the we spoke for like 3 hours, and there were some other people there, but it was crazy. And but no, he wants to solve problems like the ones we just viewed. All that trash everywhere. And he even like reached out to the city to make sure that they were doing everything as a school board that they could be doing, to make sure that the city cops had the authority to trespass people from that property. And so we're going to be working with him. It doesn't look like there's any active encampments on that school board property at the moment, which is great, but it was also freezing last night, like actually freezing. So maybe that was why, but yeah.
I think getting on these boards, and a lot of this is culture change. So getting on these boards and obviously having influence in the decisions that they make, and having the opportunity to have these conversations with other leaders where we talk about the inhumanity of letting people live like this, kind of planting the seed that there are better ways to do these things, and opening up that dialogue, actually talking about it, is the way to promote grassroots change.
And that's so every we're gonna have other events, but right now it's just every Saturday morning. If you're into coffee, nice, calm, relaxed environment, 9 to 11 at Cafe 101 in Coos Bay. And we're gonna do other cities, other coffee shops in the future. We're gonna do happy hours and like a movie night, stuff like that. But for now, it's just coffee. I'm super swamped with a bunch of stuff, so it's just coffee right now. But we'll do other. Somebody asked in the comments, how do we go live? So I'm going to try something a little crazy tonight. And if you actually want to be on the show to be live, I'm going to put a link right now in the chat. I believe it'll only get posted to Facebook and YouTube. But if you want to click that link and set up your computer or your phone, you can do it from your phone and join the live stream. And I don't know, we'll wing it. Make sure you put your real name in there so I know who it is. I'm not going to just let anybody in there, but yeah, we'll try that. And pretty cool that we have local leaders that are willing to meet with people for coffee.
Absolutely.
So I hope that continues. I don't have anybody scheduled for this week. I'll probably be the special guest at my own coffee event. Did you want to do national headlines?
Yeah, sure. Let's get into it. There's a lot of
Um,
exciting stuff going on.
I think I have it ready. President Trump. Well, let's back up. 20 minutes before President Trump got inaugurated, I thought this was fake news, and we talked about it before the show, and you thought it was fake news, like misinformation at first as well. But it was 20 minutes before the inauguration. Joe Biden pardoned his family, the whole January 6th committee and their staff, and Dr. Fauci. I couldn't believe it. What do you think about that?
I think that I never want to hear another person criticize Trump again. Like, Trump isn't even one of my favorite people. I don't have a lot of respect for someone who bankrupts 6 times. But like, I guess everybody has their faults. The obsession with painting Trump as a monster while this dude pardons his own son and then follows up and pardons it with people who apparently, from what I knew, didn't do anything wrong. So why do they need a pardon? And it's so ironic that these people would be. So what they say is, well, he's going to go after his political opponents. You mean like you did? You're afraid that
Yeah.
he's going to do what you're going to do? And I don't think Biden himself actually had anything to do with this because he's too senile. I would suppose that whoever's been actually running the country, first of all, they did a really bad job. Like, if you're going to covert run the country, like, at least do a decent job. But I think it had to have been somebody on his. You only need a pardon if. I mean,
It's
come
pretty
on.
telling. And the funny thing is people were saying if they do accept the pardon, then they lose the Fifth Amendment protection. They can't testify against themselves if there's no crime that they can be convicted of. So then they'd be forced to testify in Congress. And if they refuse, then that's a crime, a new crime that they weren't pardoned for. So it's like they might actually be shot in the foot for that. But
controversial opinion, I don't think presidential pardons should be a thing. Period. It's a circumvention of our judicial system. Think of all those victims of all of those predators who were locked behind bars, and those victims felt like they could finally live their life in peace, and that scumbag let them out. And I'll say the same thing about Trump. Those violent criminals that Trump let out, that's a scumbag move. If a president can just say, well, I don't think he's guilty, then what is our judicial system even for? Like, how is that fair that people go through the same judicial system, right? And then they end up, the president just decides that, well, I feel like they're free to go. That's insane. It's not just. And when you do these things to a justice system and people start to perceive injustice, you create social instability. It's just, I understand, like, the ideological reason behind it, but in practice, it's garbage.
I've never given it much thought. But John Alcock, I see that you're in the staging area. So if you we were talking, so I didn't get to it. But if you want to get, I'll put you back. I'll put you on the show if you'd like. But yeah, the pardon thing, totally crazy. I've never given thought. I guess maybe it isn't necessary. But yeah, the left. Oh, we need to bring justice, and then they go and do that. But are you ready, John? I'll bring you on. I don't know who this is, so we'll see how it goes. But it seems like I think they want to help clean up the bump camp. Oh, he popped off. I think. We'll give him a second. Oh, is he in the chat? Mm-hmm. I have sent a request. Oh, here he's back. We'll put him on. Here he goes. Hi, John. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. You? Nice to meet you.
You too, sir.
What can we do for you?
Oh, I just decided to stop in and listen to some of the conversations that were going on today.
All right. What brought you to the Citizen Council live stream?
Quite a few things actually. I mean, I feel that there's quite a few issues around here. Just I live in North Bend, so I feel that there's some issues that need to be addressed, and they're not getting addressed by our city council or our mayors.
I can agree with that. Um, like, are you talking about the crime issues and stuff?
Uh,
What's your biggest pain point?
I came back here about 4 years ago. I was born and raised here in North Bend, and I just kind of see a homeless issue that we've got going on with certain things. And I know from just a couple of people I've talked to that City of North Bend's getting paid quite a bit of money to help these homeless people. And instead of actually doing something where they're opening facilities or stuff for the homeless people to go, they're not doing anything with them. I had a gentleman the other night. Not once, but many times I've had run in with homeless people that the gentleman was actually across the street from my house and decided he was going to make a trip over to my house and try to open my door. And um, yeah, it's jeopardizing my family, which I kind of have an issue with that because I'm being told by my father, who is no longer with us, that there is an issue if you try to use personal protection against a homeless person in this town.
Yeah, it seems to be something that they might have more rights than we do, which is absolutely insane and unacceptable. But yeah, North Bend seems to do a little better with the homeless, but I think it was only because the Devereaux Center was in Coos Bay was such an attraction that they didn't really have to deal with it as much. And now they're starting to get a lot of the overflow. It's bad, and yeah, you're right. They have a lot of funds, they have a lot of programs, but not a lot of like success. And even the county tried to do. I know this isn't like totally homeless related, but it sort of is. They were going to do a sobering center at the jail. And, you know,
Right.
right now, like if you're drunk and you commit a crime, you don't go to jail because they can't handle your drunk ass in jail. So you don't have to go. If you're drunk or high, or apparently last week there was somebody who was pregnant, so you didn't have to go to jail. Um, you don't have to. So with a sobering center, they could at least give these people some sort of time out. And they
It
couldn't.
was
Yeah,
totally voluntary.
I just have an issue with it because I came from a big city when I was actually um, in the military. And then I come down here and, you know, my dad, which I love to death, is being told that he can't protect his own personal property. And then I do have some friends that are actually in law enforcement and they're like, well, our hands are kind of tied. So what we do is if you call us for a situation where somebody's trying to get into your home or something and they're homeless, then pretty much all they're going to do is get a smack on the wrist and Mike, but then if a law abiding citizen is trying to protect their home and their family, then they're the ones that get into trouble. And I kind of have an issue with that because I mean, I made an oath to protect my country, but then it's like, so now I'm coming home and I have to live in fear of somebody that is that is not wanted at my house is trying to come into my house. So now I'm going to be the one that gets in trouble and they're going to get a smack on the wrist and be allowed to go do what they want to do. And I have a big problem with that.
You should have a big problem with that. We all do, and it's
We're being
insane that our elected
terrorized.
officials. We are. Yep, they're
Right.
little terrorists all over town, and our elected officials somehow don't care enough to 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 fight for us and to make it work to find a solution. Somebody here in the comments said Kayla says she just went up to Lincoln City and saw less homeless. I've seen it too. Um, there are a few there, but nothing compared to what it looks like here. And then someone said it's the same way in Florence.
Oh yeah, Florence literally has a section with their city council. I have a friend who's on the city council in Florence. They actually have a section of land devoted nothing but to the homeless people.
Yeah, and Reedsport, I think it was Reedsport, has the same thing. And they just do it better. They have the services, and they there's none of the riffraff that you see in Coos Bay. I just don't know what it is other than the people that we've elected to be responsible for it, and they're being completely irresponsible. They're just not doing their job. I don't know. I wish I had like solutions for people on the show and I could just like hand out solutions left and right. But I really think the only way to do it is to get new people in office because as much as I don't like to say it, they do have the power over us at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I truly do. I think that there could be more. I mean, we have the establishments and stuff to do it. The Coos County Annex is empty, as far as I know from when I got home. I know the National Guard Armory is empty. I from somebody who was National Guard before I joined full time Army, I know that the National Guard Armory has medical facilities and rooms and areas for these homeless people, and the city is actually paying the government to kind of keep this building up and running. And so it's like, why not send them to certain areas? I went to a city council meeting in North Bend when they were talking about the building a homeless camp over at Simpson Park. That was a big cluster. No, they didn't want to take any of our questions. They just wanted us to write everything down on paper and be like, okay, hey, we'll look this over and do our own thing. So, but I mean, there's a bunch of facilities. There's a bunch of areas that we could actually put these homeless people and get the medical facilities and stuff that we need for them, but the cities aren't doing it.
They're just not working hard enough. It
That
comes
was
down to that.
that's been a strategic move. It's been done on, it's intentional. The idea was to close down these state-run facilities and shift the burden of care to small municipalities. So what ends up happening though is when you force rural small towns to take on this task, they do not have the labor, they do not have the facilities, they don't have it's mainly the people and the place to do it. We don't have the infrastructure and we don't have the people it would take. And that's why state-run facilities that are in larger municipalities are so important. You have to have staff. You have to have the building. You have to have the infrastructure.
I understand. I mean, but I'm just from somebody who came back to this area and I'm looking at certain things. I mean, and aspects of things. I mean, we do have certain areas, like I said. I mean, and I understand we're saying that we don't have the people to run these areas, but I mean, I went to a city council meeting here in North Bend, and they're trying to explain to us that they don't have the land to do this, but then they wanted to turn Simpson Park, which is right across the McCullough Bridge. That's the last thing that anybody wants to see when they come into a city is a homeless camp right off to the right hand side of the city they're getting ready to come into.
Well, it's bullshit. They own land. They own. You can download apps on your phone like Land Glide or Onyx, and type in or go to the county assessor's website and type in like City of North Bend, and you'll see all the land they own. They own like 300 acres. I think I don't know if it's 300, but it's very large property over. We lost John. A big property over by the. I think it's the Chandler Bridge, going to like East Bay Road. The split there, it goes to Allegheny and then East Bay Road. East Bay Drive is what they like to call it. I don't know why they renamed it road, but anyways, they own like tons of land over there. They could put people there. City of Coos Bay owns 40 acres behind Cascade. They could put people there.
The problem is though, it just turns into this, and it is a constant resource suck for our police department because these people are constantly high. They're constantly trying to hurt each other. I worked down in Empire, and that's where our office is, and it is wild. I mean, people getting shot, people getting stabbed, people chasing each other up and down the street with very large sticks on the regular basis. And so that's what you have anytime you have camping situation.
Well, and I wasn't necessarily advocating for them to create something like. I'm just saying like that's when you go to these city council meetings, like they'll say that's the response is, oh, we don't have anywhere to do that, we don't have any land. And it's like that's a lie. Like what you just said is a response, right? Like what you just said is a legit response. It's like you can see that you're thinking and using your brain and common sense, like, yeah, this might be crazy to put these people in the woods behind Cascade, right? It would cost, Jeff says, like, imagine the cost of insurance for something like that. Yeah, right. Like it would be crazy. And like, how do you manage it? The Devereaux Center did something like that over near Englewood. They called the Coal Bank Village. I think it's still there. And for that, the city actually opened up. It was the street. It's the end of 2nd Street. They used the city right of way or the street, the OSP right of way to just put these little pallet homes, these little homeless huts right in the middle of the road. I mean, it's the end of the road, but they can find places if they want to. So they're just not working hard enough.
The thing is, these people need to go into treatment facilities. And there are state mental hospitals, there are drug and alcohol rehab centers. If we're going to fix this problem, this I hate to sound, harsh, but it is going to probably going to have to come down to there are no services. If you want food and shelter, you have to go into a treatment program or die in the woods. Like we cannot continue to enable this. If a person cannot survive on their own, they have to go into a treatment facility and get drug and alcohol rehabilitation treatment, or go into a mental health facility and get behavioral rehabilitation. That has to be the only alternative. And that's going to require a community coming together and saying, we will no longer enable this. No free care packages, no free meals, no free shelter, nothing. If you want help, get yourself clean. Check yourself into a rehabilitation facility. And then if those facilities aren't available, like this, I believe the state has some quite a few facilities actually. And so then there becomes the issue of like, well, the state doesn't have room for them, which I'm not totally sure if they would run into that, but my gut instinct tells me that our state doesn't even have the resources to deal with the number of people who are so completely destroyed that they can't survive on their own, or they can't self-sustain without a significant rehabilitation program.
Well, I spoke with some people on the school board because they own part of this property, and then I'm going to be speaking with the property owner that is the other half, the private property, and there's interest from both sides to potentially do something with this land other than what its current disgusting use is. And what do you think about turning it into a park? Like, I know we need housing and stuff, so it might be cool to use some of this area for housing, like divide it up into parcels. But what about, I mean, it used to be a park. It used to be, I believe, like a nature trail for the school. What about turning it back into a park? I mean, is that something like, I think that would be cool.
It's a beautiful idea, especially for our more elderly aging population who are people who maybe have low mobility. So people who cannot necessarily, or maybe people who don't drive and can't drive out into the woods or can't drive out to the beach or whatever the case may be, having these green places inside of the metropolitan area, I think is really important for people. There's actually, I know it's important. There's tons of studies on the importance of parks within cities.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about insurance issues with parks.
Yeah,
like
Jamie,
now,
most of them that are not on drugs are already being temporarily housed or getting some kind of help. The overwhelming majority of people who are in this situation that we're looking at right now, it is drugs. And it may have started off as mental illness that went untreated. But what happens is these people who already have issues with boundaries, they're just sitting ducks. They're prey basically for drug dealers. And so a person may come into a homeless situation because they don't have the mental capacity to self-sustain. And then they very quickly get roped into drug addiction by predatory dealers and by other people sharing and whatnot. And once they become drug addicted, there's obviously like a slew of behavioral problems that come along with that. But there is a good portion of people that even after they come off the drugs, that are living like this. Even after they come off the drugs, they still don't have the mental capacity to self-sustain. They're a heck of a lot better, and can probably get along pretty well in a care facility. But most of these people are still going to need a residential care facility or at least some kind of intensive behavioral rehabilitation. that teaches them daily life skills, work habits, and things like that.
It's going to need a whole lot of things, and it's going to need a lot of people to work together, which is why we need to have officials that are willing to work with each other and all focused on this issue. It can't just be one person. Like you and I can't be the only people talking
Right.
about this. Everybody needs to focus on it together, and they're not
Right.
currently doing this.
And it's going to require the community coming together to kind of say, hey, we have to make some really tough decisions. Like it's hard to tell someone, I'm not going to help you. Like when someone comes and asks, when they're coming and they're asking like the church for help, could you imagine the church saying like, we're not going to feed you. We're not. But it's what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to say, we have no handouts, but you'll get free meals when you check yourself into the mental health hospital or the drug rehab facility. I know they're building another one. There's going to be a huge rehabilitation center going in over in Roseburg, and so these facilities are getting built. There are legitimate investments going into mental health care and drug treatment. It's just taken way longer than it should have. Seems like everybody's making excuses for why they can't solve the problem instead of just going in and like doing the hard thing that will solve the problem.
I think we'll end on this note. Chris says we need officials who are actually going to listen to their public instead of people that are just making their pockets fatter. Yeah, I agree. Although one caveat: the city council members are volunteers. They don't make money directly off of their city council membership. We're gonna have to move on. We will talk about this next week, and we've interviewed some of the people in these camps, and they're pretty interesting interviews, and then we can talk about it. We'll have that next Wednesday if you guys are interested. So I've got a little clip here of our new president. I had a few notes, but this was like one of the oh no, that's the press conference. We'll do that next. I picked the wrong tab on my screen. Where's his inauguration? There we go. We'll do this chronologically.
We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
There's lots of clapping.
And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities.
I hope that happens,
This
but
week,
it's going to be a big thing.
I will also end the
Lots of
government.
How many people are going to fight
Socially
against
engineer race.
just creating law and order, like just holding people responsible for their actions? There's actually going to be people who have a problem with that, and that kind of blows my mind.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know how much I paused that at the most brilliant moment. Sorry, Donald. But yeah, it's I don't know how much the federal government can do to help us here in Coos County. I hope they can. And if they do help us, I hope there's people here on the other end willing to work with the federal government. But
I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
Racism has really like blown through the roof. Like real
We will forge
racism.
a
People are
society
actually
that
being
is
discriminated
colorblind
against
and
having less opportunity
based,
because of the color of
blind,
their
and
skin.
yeah, I've seen that too. I mean, like all these conversations about race, this and that. I don't see the outcomes. I don't see it that the world has gotten less racist. But this part he says next really got me. This is where I wrote the notes down. It's like a mind-blowing like concept for some people in this country, but it makes totally sense to me.
Socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
This next part, after the clapping. They're always clapping.
We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
Love it.
That one. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. Like, thank you. Thank you. Like, and it's not Trump. Like, if President Obama had said that, like, come on.
Exactly.
That's what Martin
I
Luther
don't
King
care
wanted.
whose mouth the truth comes out of. You know?
I just don't know why why would you not want a colorblind and merit-based society? It's what Dr. Martin Luther King wanted. The I have a dream speech. Do people forget that?
Have you read that speech lately?
I mean, no. Should I? But
would
I know most
yes,
of it.
read
Yeah.
it. It's
I will.
beautiful. I would encourage anyone, we're all familiar with a few key lines. Read the whole speech. I read the whole speech out loud as just kind of a little exercise here, maybe like 8 months ago or something. And like, I teared up.
Oh, wow.
It's so beautiful and it's so moving and it is so antithetical to where we are today. And the juxtaposition between his words and the reality of the DEI outcome, it's so polar opposite, and it's jarring to read his words and go, oh my God, we've moved so far from that ideal. It's heartbreaking, and it's such a beautiful speech. Everyone go tonight or tomorrow, read the speech, read it out loud so you can hear the words, because it's so powerful and they're words that we should all want to live by.
I pulled it up on my browser. I'll read it after the show.
It's so pretty.
I know we had
It's
to
just
read
so
it during
poignant.
elementary school, Black History Month and all that, but I'm not gonna play Donald Trump anymore. We lost some viewers when I did that, but I do want to there were some things in his inauguration speech, and he did a press conference the next day, which really stood out to me. And I'm sorry if this is offensive to people, but the one thing he talked about is that there are only two genders, male and female. And it was like,
Correct.
Thank you. Like, I cannot believe I live in a world where that has to actually be stated by an adult. It's like very strange concept to me. They talked about the Panama Canal. Again, I think we talked about this last week, but they're going to maybe take back the Panama Canal. Interesting. Didn't know that was something we could take back. And then he announced something called Stargate. Did you hear about Stargate?
Yes, but I've heard about it. It's been around for a long time.
It's this. He called it Stargate. I don't know. He said it's a $500 billion investment into AI infrastructure.
AI project.
And he had all these super mega rich people up on stage to talk about it.
I want to be excited for it, but there's a part of me that just hates the fact that we don't have a functioning, high quality train system in this country. Our bridges are failing. We could have a port here in Coos Bay that would basically make LA and its shenanigans with the port disasters, the port problems, the transportation problems. We wouldn't even have to worry about it anymore. It would revolutionize the economy on the entire West Coast. And we're just not doing it. We're not putting the money into our physical. How about some mental health hospitals or mental health residential facilities so that we're not sharing the sidewalks with people that use them as toilets? Improve all of our quality of life. That, and I deep down, I'll put on my tinfoil hat for a minute. I do think the AI is eventually going to become self-aware and kill us, but that's a whole different tangent.
So if I can compartmentalize different issues with a $500 billion investment into AI and only think of it in terms of a negotiation, the timeline. So I believe his last presidency, I think it's SoftBank Capital is the company. It's an investment firm headquartered in Japan, and I think they have an office in New York City as well. But they invested $50 billion during his first term, and he came and did a press conference a couple months ago with the CEO of SoftBank, and he was joking around like, I want you to double it. I want you to do 100 million. And he said, fine. He agreed. He's like, I'll do 100 million. And then Trump was like joking, and he's like, well, what I'm going to do is get you to come back, and I'm hoping you even double that. I want you to do 200 million. So then I think it was yesterday during this press conference, the guy came on and he's like, so Donald, I brought you 500 billion. And it's like, Joe Biden couldn't do that. And I don't know where this goes for our country, whether it is actually going to help us or not with it has to $500 billion invested into AI infrastructure in our company. And that
And
infrastructure is
how can
mostly for energy
How can
production.
this guy just throw that kind of money around? Like, we need $1 billion for our port. Can we get $1 billion? Like, can we get one of those 500?
Well, he's an investment firm, so he has to make money off of it. So, and I would leave, I mean, he's probably very, very smart and wealthy. And, but
We
yeah,
need to start soliciting billionaires for the money and get that port
right.
going.
But I don't know, is there a way to do, so AI requires a lot of energy, it's like supercomputers, right? And they require a lot of energy. I don't know if we have the capability of that out here, and nowhere really does, and that's why there's hence the money for the infrastructure. But even with an investment in infrastructure, I don't know if we have that, and I don't know if we'd want it. But it's just interesting that we're having conversations like that instead of like the ones we had for the past 4 years, which is like, oh crap, how am I going to pay for butter? Because it's like now it's $7 and it used to be $2. I want to give some shout outs. Chris says, thank you for the chance to be able to chat about issues around our area. Thanks for asking to be on the show randomly and not coming on and like doing something inappropriate. I was a little nervous, not because of who you are, just, I was in a homeless advisory. I was in a homeless advisory meeting last week and during a Zoom call. This is a public government meeting. And somebody infiltrated the Zoom call and blasted like pornography on the screen. And it was absolutely insane. And it was crazy. So I'm thankful that has never happened on our show.
Oh, you can go to prison for doing that. That's
I would imagine.
FCC that's a federal violation. I don't know if they're any better at tracking that kind of stuff down, but I'm pretty sure you go to prison for stuff like that. Well,
they reported it. I don't know what happens with stuff like that. But following the Stargate thing, Trump, so this was during a press conference. I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, I can't remember, but he was asked about TikTok. And let me see if I can get this to play.
Let me do this first.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I said,
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it, yeah.
And on your inauguration.
I'd like Larry to buy it too. I have the right to make a deal. So the deal I'm thinking about, Larry, let's negotiate in front of the media. The deal I think is this, and I've met with owners of TikTok, the big owners. It's worthless if it doesn't get a permit. It's not like, oh, you can take the US. The whole thing is worthless. With a permit, it's worth like $1 trillion. So what I'm thinking about saying to somebody is buy it and give half to the United States of America, half, and we'll give you the permit. And they'll have a great partner, the United States. And they'll have something that's actually more valuable because they have the ultimate partner, and the United States will make it very worthwhile for them in terms of the permits and everything else. But so think of it, you have an asset that has no value or has $1 trillion value. It all depends on whether or not the United States gives the permit. So what I'm saying is let the United States give the permit and the United States should get half. Sounds reasonable. What do you think?
Sounds like a good deal to me, Mr. President.
Yeah.
So I don't like this. This is actually really crazy to me. And if he's looking off the side to people, rich, very wealthy people that own massive corporations, and they said it's a great idea. And it's like, now people call him and people in that arena fascists, like that, for no reason. Like if you look up the definition of fascism, and fascist. Like, it doesn't actually fit Donald Trump, and it's crazy. But in this situation, isn't that fascism for the government to say we want ownership in a private industry?
That
And
wouldn't
or
be
like, is it
fascism.
socialism?
It would
Like
be communism, where the
communism? I
government
mean,
owns the means of production.
it's not good. Our government should not be involved in social media. And he already owns a social media company. I mean, there's so
Right.
many red flags like that. I'm watching this press conference and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, kind of cool. And then all of a sudden that it was like, what? And the concept of like, hey, you have something that you've created that's valuable. And yes, it's the Chinese, but like, I mean, that I can put that aside, that
Yeah.
it's another country that might be our adversary, but essentially somebody created technology that's really popular and valuable, and you're going to say, no, we're going to take your ability to have that function in our country, we're going to take that away, and we're going to blackmail you. You're only going to be able to get it back if you give us half of it.
Extortion. It kind of is giving
Extortion. Sorry, I don't know all
funds,
these
yeah.
terms because I've never even conceptualized crazy shit like this. But that, I'm a Trump fan, but this one really got me to go, what the hell what kind of advice have you been given on this
Nobody
one?
is all good or all bad, and he definitely has some bad ideas here and there. I'm really happy with some of the stuff that he's already done, especially making sure that women do not have to compete in sport against males. That was a big one for me. Or share locker rooms with males and forcing women and girls to change their clothing in front of men at parks and pools and whatnot. It's gyms. It's awful. But that was giving, like, we won't give you that's I don't know about that. We'll only give you the permits to operate your business in our country if you give our country part of your business.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
That
I don't
was
really.
totally crazy. I couldn't believe it. I replayed it over and over because I'm like, am I missing something?
Yeah,
That I don't like.
I don't like
I
it
didn't like
either.
that.
I don't like anytime the government wants control over something.
Bad Donald Trump. That was not cool. That was
I
not
hope
cool.
he's just, he is a businessman, and a lot of people like that about him. That, well, he's a businessman. He knows how to run a business. Well, business and human welfare management, public sector, it's different. Like, a business's job is to make money. A human welfare management system, a system of governance, of public interest, shouldn't be there to make money off of its people. It's there to pool resources and use them for the good of the populace. So the idea that businesses are not, like, business's job is not to look out for human welfare. That's government's job. That's why we keep we have the separation of the two. And then we have not-for-profits who are the third party that is, I'll get into that another time.
I think he gets like excited to make a deal. I mean, he did
I
write
do.
the book, The Art of the Deal. So, I mean, it's not far-fetched. I think he just got caught up in it, and I hope that doesn't actually. I mean, I was even uncomfortable in general with the TikTok ban. I get it that like it's a foreign adversary and like it's not great to have them have such a big influence over, young minds in our country. But like, isn't that a family problem? Isn't that an issue, like a parental problem? Isn't that an issue more with like our core society and how our family units are operating and or
Yep.
not operating? And like, that's maybe something we should focus on. And I think he does. Fair enough. Like, I think he cares about that too. But man, what a spiral out of control. So I hope we're not going to talk about it again because it's not going to happen. Because
And he does.
that's
That's another thing
crazy.
that I've had to get used to with him, because I've worked in politics, and so I'm just so used to very rehearsed people who are very careful about what they say, and he is the antithesis of that.
The total opposite.
It just, whatever just comes out of his mouth. And I have had to kind of step back and be like, okay, this guy in that way is a little bit like everybody else. because I can guarantee you every person I know who has ever criticized something Trump has said something at one point that was completely unhinged. And so it's important to remind stuff that like people of stuff that like, hey, listen, you have said crazy stuff too. If you know, if people heard what some of the things that come out of your mouth, you wouldn't be painted in such a pretty light either. So kind of reminding people like he's actually being human, which I think we've all been conditioned to be a little uncomfortable with,
Yeah.
which is
He definitely
it's
it's
weird.
fun to watch him be more normal, but he's also like does some things that are cringe and not normal at all. So I don't know. We got like Biden on one end and Trump on the other end of the spectrum, and it's like, can we like fast forward through time and get JD Vance in there? You know, like I really like JD
Have
Vance.
someone who's not geriatric or mentally ill.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, just
The more
any billionaire is going to be weird. I don't know. I don't think there's a
well,
single billionaire that is not weird.
all rich people are weird. You have to be weird to do what you have to do to get that much money.
Really, you really do. Think about that. You're not. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, somebody with that much money is not human. But it is what we have for the next 4 years, and I'm hopeful that his principles and policies, you know, shine through, and the people around him, and they do a good job. But that's all I had for national stuff. Some local things. They've got a vacancy for the homeless response director. That's like a countywide position. There's a funding from the state that funds that program, but it's managed locally. There's also a opening on the budget committee for the county. I asked them about this. I was like, hey, I sent an email out earlier this week about this vacancy because I had heard about it from Rob Taylor and the radio or X radio show guy. And I was like, how did you find out about that? Because I had actually prevented them from appointing somebody and asked them to make it a public process, like make it something that everyone could be a part of and understand. Yeah. And they didn't. Like they stopped the process of just appointing whoever they wanted, which was like great, but they didn't make efforts to like really get the public involved. And here, if I can pull it up. So like, for example, you go to, this is the county homepage, and they have latest news and you click it and it's like housing authority, notice of public comment, Coos County Building Department is moving, Planning Commission, and you're like, okay, view all the news. Maybe that's like, maybe it's buried in their news. But then you realize that they've had, in all of 2024, they had one news posting. And in 2023, they had 1, 2, 3 news postings, 1 in 22. Like, they're not using this website. And I was told, Drew Farmer responded to my email and he told me that it was a press release. So like you click press release and click apply, and there's not even one from the past 2 years. So like I don't get it. And then you go to the departments. So the budget committee is actually within the board of commissioners. So you go to budget committee and the page is blank. I mean, this is what I told them about back in December when I spoke with them about this. I wrote up a whole document that spelled it out. I wonder if I even have that. Do I have that? Oh, wow, I do. Here, give me a second to throw this one up on the screen. So I was not able to attend the meeting. So what I did is I wrote this whole thing up to have one of the commissioners read. And I even put screenshots in it showing them that like you can't get any information on what the budget committee does. There, in the whole website, it says the board also sits as part of the Coos County Budget Committee. I don't know if you guys can read that on the screen, but it was like buried deep within the county code. I put this whole research paper together with screenshots and everything. And see, there's the budget committee website sitting there with nothing in it. And like that was the smallest ask was, hey, can you just put some information on that page right there that already exists that says how to apply for this position, who currently sits on the committee, who are these people? Just list their name. Every board and committee in the county has a website like that. If you want to know who's on our North Bend Library Board, you can type in North Bend Library Board in Google, and it'll pop up the names. It'll probably even include when they got voted in, when their term ends. You can find board meeting notes, everything. And this is like a deeper problem though with our county. They're not transparent, they're secretive, they're sneaky about stuff, and that's why they don't actually want to do this. They don't want people to get involved in the budget, because you know what? You might just find out that everything they've been telling you is a lie. You might just find that out. And the deeper you go down that rabbit hole, because I attended all of the budget meetings last year. It was like weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks worth of meetings. And it's not good. So they don't really want people to get involved. It's sad. It's sad that
it's really frustrating when they say, well, come and talk to us. Why? You don't do anything about what we talk about. And then that conversation dies with us. So why don't we just start having the conversations publicly so the entire community can participate in the conversation?
You'd think they'd be interested in that. I mean, I just don't know why. Why would you get involved in public government if you don't want to engage with people and be a part of an engaged solution? I like that's their whole sole purpose. That's the whole reason we have government. But they don't view it that way. They actually think of it as they're there to govern us, to tell us what to do, and that their ideas are the best. Blah blah blah. Somebody asked in the comments, how do we find out about that homeless position? So if you go to the county website, so here I'll go back to the homepage. Go to co.coos.or.us, or just type it in Google, and then you go over here to the right under departments. There's actually a whole department called Homeless Response Office, and I guess you can call this phone number. There's also a way to request for application. If you go to, let's see if this works, City of Coos Bay, Oregon, because Nicole Rutherford is the city manager for Coos Bay, and she is the chair of this committee. So if you go here under, I don't know where it would be, government, I guess. City Council, goals and objectives. I don't know. Click around this site. You'll find an email for Nicole Rutherford. She's the city manager, or maybe type in like city manager.
There would be so much more community involvement if there was more communication and more outreach from our elected officials. And you're so right about this kind of mentality of they're here to govern and not there to advocate on behalf of their electorate. And I think that's where things go wonky, is that they've lost, or maybe they never had the concept, but the concept of being a public servant isn't there. Their job is to serve. And if you don't want to serve the public, please do not go to work in politics, because we do not need any more leeches. We're tapped out.
For sure. Sorry, I didn't realize I was like talking for a while there and nothing was changing on the screen, but I was in like another window. But yeah, if you go to Google or go to the City of Coos Bay page and type in city manager, you'll find this page, and there's Nicole Rutherford. She's actually really nice to talk to, available. She was the chair or still is the chair. I'm not totally sure, but she'll point you in the right direction if anybody's interested in that position. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get why people aren't more engaged with the public if you're an elected official, but that's the problem.
There's nothing stopping the commissioners from doing this, like having podcasts where yes, they have their budget meetings, but they're procedural and they're very dry. They're very, they have to do certain, they have like city functions and things like that. But just to talk to their community, nothing is stopping them. I mean, when I stood up there and questioned them about it, John Sweet's answer was, well, that stuff costs money. That the technologies cost money. I said, no, it doesn't. Facebook and YouTube are free. Hop on a live and start talking to people. All it takes is your time. Then the truth came out. Well, and he kind of mumbled under his breath, well, that's another issue. No,
Yep.
it's the issue, John.
They just don't
It is
care.
the issue.
It comes, yeah, they don't care. They're not good enough. Don't fool yourself to thinking that our elected officials are good enough. They're not good enough. They need to do better. Every single one of them. If any of them are hearing this, if you don't want to lose your job, do better. Push harder.
Yes.
Think smarter. Think bigger. Be more engaged. Come on this show. Talk to people. Go. Just do anything different than what you're doing now, because what you're doing now sucks. You suck.
Yep.
I'll say it. I mean, I don't know people from the city council in like Myrtle Point or Bandon and Coquille as much. I'm gonna, expand over the next year and try and get to know some more people, because I bet there's people in those cities that are doing the right job, because like you look at Bandon and they have a lot less crime. So there's got to be something different there. And I'm going to kind of get to the bottom of it.
I know the Coquille City Council has acquired some really great people. So change is on its way. So people who have been maintaining the status quo can either get on the bandwagon of change, or they can exit and make room for people who are interested in straightening things out.
I think you know somebody on the city council from Coquille, right?
Mhm.
All right. I've heard good things. So maybe we'll get some city councilors on the show who actually talk like us and think like the people. Common sense
I have
people.
someone in mind that I think would be receptive to that. Yeah.
That would be super refreshing. Like, we need that. We need somebody to be normal, please.
That's, I've had conversations with some of my colleagues and friends who have professional positions, and we've talked about authenticity and being candid and self-censoring, and the degree to which you have to behave a certain way, talk a certain way, use certain language in order to be taken seriously and respected. And to the within the confines of being respectful to people. Like, I've been known to drop an F-bomb, and I try not to do that on things like this, because there could be kids watching, or it's not exactly a kid show, right? We talk about some really sensitive stuff that probably is not safe for little ears, but just being candid, talk the way you talk, be who you are, make the jokes you normally make. And if that's not good enough for people, then let them vote in the status quo. Let them continue to get robbed. Let them continue to have things stolen out of their yards. Stick with the status quo, because if real people are not good enough, you're going to get stuck with phonies. And I think that's a lot of what we have. There are people that work in our local government who I do think are very authentic, and they just have, they have a classiness that I probably don't have about my personality. And I've always kind of looked at them and said, God, should I be more like that? And I've kind of come to the conclusion that I can't be. Like, I can't like not be myself. And I implore everyone around me, just be yourself. Say the truth. Say what you really think, because we need people to just be honest. Like, stop worrying about how you're going to be perceived. Stop worrying if you're going to offend someone. Just say the truth. We all need to start doing that. And then if we embrace it as individuals, then we can embrace that quality of authenticity and honesty in our leaders. But if we're expecting people who, well, they made that off-color joke, or they made that, sideways comment. People do. People make off-color, like, they just do. And so if you're setting this bar unrealistically high for people, you're gonna get phonies in office. And I kind of think that's like what has happened.
I just wish we had people that could, like, when you make a comment or ask a question, they can just answer you like you would expect to be answered. Like, I spoke at the commissioner meeting on Tuesday, and the one prior, Commissioner Taylor voted for something that he said I don't agree with. I don't agree with this, but I'm going to vote for it anyway. And I don't want to get into the details, but I said in my comment this week, I said, why did you do that? Like, why didn't you just vote your conscience? And it was a unanimous vote. So if he had voted no, it would have still passed 2-1. So I just don't understand. It doesn't. And I talked with other people about this who kind of know the details, like the very small details of this. And they're, no one can make sense of it. So, and that's part of the reason why I brought it up at the commissioner meeting. And he didn't respond, and he didn't text me, didn't call me, he didn't speak about it right after I spoke, like nothing. I mean, I don't expect every elected official to text or call me, but it's just like, it was about the Bandon school tax, or it's a construction tax that they added, and it goes to the school district for capital improvement, but it's a new construction tax. So it's $1.63 per square foot added when you build a house in Bandon. And for like a 2,000 square foot house, it's an additional like 3,000 and change when you build the house. Are they sure
that's constitutional?
It's, yep, the Oregon State Legislature, I believe it was like in 2007, and then they re-updated it in 2020. It's happening. It's the world we live in, and
I would recommend whoever
it's bullshit.
By that to get legal counsel and look into suing.
So you want to get even more mad? Because I was like, when did this happen? No one even, I know people in Bandon who are in the know in Bandon. I know somebody on the school board, and no one said anything. So I'm like, how did this happen without anybody knowing? So Rob Taylor, the radio host, found the meeting. It was back in June. The school board voted on it. And so I watched the meeting, and I'm skimming over it, and I can't find it. I'm like, where is it? It's because it's less than 60 seconds. It was in less than 60 seconds.
Whoa.
They put it on the agenda. It was just called Amendment to Resolution 18. That's all it said. So when if you look at the agenda before the meeting, you would have been like, this is boring stuff, I'm not going to go. It should have said in bold colors, new construction tax. Like, that's what it should have said. But because they're assholes and they don't care about their constituents, they called it Amendment to Resolution 18. And in less than 60 seconds, they read the title twice. And the Republican that I know who would be totally, and he has said that he's totally opposed to tax. He even goes, I didn't know we had taxing authority. And then he goes, cool. And I'm like, why did you say cool? That's a really weird thing to say. And then they call for the vote. Well, actually, somebody asks, can they do it retroactively? Can you believe that? I think they said it jokingly, but like, I would never have thought of that. Like, let's retroactively apply a tax. That's insane. But so in less than 60 seconds, they read it twice. There's a couple comments. No one motions for discussion. They motion for a vote. It's second, and they all vote unanimous. Yes. And it passes, and they move on in less than 60 seconds. Boom, done. Brand new tax, way to help the economy and the housing situation in Bandon. You asshats. It's insane.
Wow. They should be absolutely ashamed of themselves.
So me and some other people who know this city councilor who's a Republican who has said publicly that he's against taxes. Most Republicans are. He claims that he claims to one of us that he knew about it, and that he tries to argue that it's going to be helpful, blah, 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 blah. And then to some other people like me, he claims that he doesn't know anything about it. And I'm talking about Stan Avery. He's on the school board in Bandon. He claims to me that he doesn't know anything about it at the same time. And like, we're not idiots. We all have cell phones, and we're able to like send each other screenshots of the text. So he's two-faced. And he's sitting there on one hand saying, I didn't know anything about it, while on the other hand, arguing to somebody else that he did know about it and why he voted yes for it. These people are phonies.
Listen to this. for those of you who are interested, if you are saddled with permit fees, you need to look at Sheets versus County of El Dorado, California. It was a lawsuit that made it to the Supreme Court last year, and the Supreme Court ruled. They held that the Fifth Amendment takings clause does not distinguish between legislative and administrative land use permit conditions. Building permit conditions are not exempt from traditional takings analysis, the court found, simply because a legislative body imposes them, instead of such conditions being imposed by a zoning administrator or planning department. So what that means is that states cannot circumvent the Fifth Amendment's takings clause simply by an administrative or even legislative action. And so if people don't know what the Fifth Amendment takings clause is, do a Google search and educate yourself, because we may all need to join in to make this change. So it does sound like that building permit fee. And so what it is the government can't take real property, land, buildings. The takings clause only applies to real property. The government cannot take from you real property or the value of real property without an exchange of, how do they put it, of adequate compensation or appropriate compensation, right? And so when they're assessing these fees, they have to assess the fees in a way that prove that the fees cover the actual public cost of the construction project. If they're in excess, it's a violation of our constitutional rights.
I just don't think we should pay any of them. I advise
completely
people to
agree
not
with you,
pay any
but-
of this, and it's gonna stop once we stop paying for it. Like when people finally stand up, and there's gonna be people who say, "Oh, you're gonna get your property taken. You're gonna end up in jail." Well, you know what? Maybe someday it's gonna take that to happen to the right guy, and it's just bullshit. I mean, all this stuff with these new taxes they keep piling on people. Like, what gives? Like, someday somebody's gonna have to stand up to all that.
It's
Because
going
I
to
don't know.
require lawsuits.
I get that angle,
surprised-
but I haven't seen that work so far in the past. Like so far, it's like when are we going to stop paying taxes? When are our taxes going to get reduced back to a reasonable level? I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying about the lawsuits. Maybe we can, but other people can work the lawsuit side, and I'll work the middle finger side. Like, get the F off my property, tax collector. I'm not paying you. Get the hell out of here. But we'll see.
Yeah, this was
we'll
a
see where we get.
major ruling, and our so permitting is not done at a county level. It's done at a municipality level, and so Bandon is going to assess their own building permit fees, Coos Bay, Coquille, etc. And so if I were a person who was affected by this, I would absolutely consult an attorney. Because
mean, I'm going to consult some of these city councilors. I'm probably going to the next Bandon City Council meeting. I'm going to speak with this one particular counselor in particular on Thursday, which is tomorrow, because it's crap. I mean, they're total shitheads for not letting people know about this ahead of time, having a town hall, having a discussion. I mean, first of all, it should be a vote of the people. The people who are affected by this should be voting for that tax. I mean, it's not
something that contributes to the community,
right.
It's so stupid. I mean,
Yep.
excuse like my pedestrian language, but it's stupid.
No, it's stupid.
Why are you de-incentivizing developing your town? Like,
because you don't actually care. That's why.
I don't get it.
They
do
just
they
don't
not care, or are they just stupid? Because I'm not trying to be
all of the
vulgar or,
above.
like,
Stupid, don't care, evil, like all of it.
And unconstitutional. I'm like, allegedly, we're throwing in allegedly so I don't get sued. But like, seriously, people need to consult attorneys and ask them because this was just ruled unconstitutional. You cannot just decide you need money, so you take it from landowners. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional.
It's crap.
I don't, it, I get all fluffed up because these are the people who, like you said, have power over our lives. And I mean, incompetent doesn't even, I want to
Well,
know so bad. I'm going to actually, okay,
there are
tomorrow
seats on the school
morning,
board open this May, so
I'm
filing
gonna
is
call, sorry, go
do
ahead.
it. Go for it.
So I do keep an attorney on retainer.
Jeez.
Absolutely not effing around. And so I think tomorrow I am going to call my attorney and ask him to do some digging and see if he can find out whether or not there is a constitutional case here. It just turns my stomach.
It's
No
crazy.
one I've talked to, no one that I have spoken to in government, in state of Oregon or local county government or city government, no one knows about this. No one knows about the Supreme Court ruling. Don't you think if you worked in government, it's your job? It's literally your job to know what government regulations are coming in and out.
I just don't think we have people who care. It really comes down to caring. No, they don't care. Like when you walk up to somebody like in a party or at a bar or anywhere, for your first day at a new job, you can tell instantly who the people are who care and don't. And maybe there's like 1 out of 100 that trick
Right.
you, but like for the most part, you can tell who cares and doesn't care. And when I walk into these city council meetings and stuff, it like reeks of people who don't care.
I
So
don't get why they're doing it.
I don't know. So this in 2 weeks, I believe it's like February 8th, you can file to run for a lot of these positions, these taxing districts like school boards and things like that. And I know people don't really like to do that, but like, why not? Like maybe this is your calling. Maybe this is your time now. It's not a hard job if you care, because if you care, you'll do a good job. I guarantee you. If you care even an ounce, you'll do better than these people who do not care.
And if not you, who?
Yep. And if you need help, we're here to help as long as you care. If you don't care, we're not going to help you. Sorry.
I mean, I would suppose anybody tuning into our show probably, has
There's a little bit.
Yeah. Inside of them. Yeah.
I like that Andre guy. I think he's gonna step up at some point and be a part of something. I feel it.
Yeah, and you will, like I said on the last podcast, I'm completing some coaching course right now for a health and life coach certification, and it takes up the majority of my time after work. And so that I'll be completed here in about 4 months or so, and at that point I'll be able to take on a little bit more, so y'all will be seeing more of me.
Oh geez.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. If you're unsure about running, or you're like, nah, I can't do that because my life's not in order or I need help, Brandy is going to be a life coach. So she can help you along that path and get you prepared for making that next decision.
I've been a executive development coach for about a decade, but I wanted to kind of be able to do some work outside of the corporate world, outside of the business world. And I've learned so much that is going to make me a better executive coach in the long run anyway. But life coaching is not, when I went into it, I had some preconceived notions, but it's actually, it's a really good course, and they teach a 90-day program. So you kind of run people through this 90-day program that's centered around their goals, and it's very, very structured, which I love. So yeah, I figure it'll make me better at what I'm already doing. So
I mean, I like when they take different paths, like after they already have a set career in life. And then we have a neighbor who I think at age like 50 decided to become a nurse. Like, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Went back to school
That is cool.
and became a nurse, and she's really good at it, super smart. So I love hearing stories like that. But
Cool.
I'm all out of stuff for tonight. I don't know how the hell we end up talking for an hour and 40 minutes all the time.
Because there's a lot,
But we do.
there's a lot going on. Like, if you start poking at stuff, we have a lot going on. We have a lot of social problems, and all of the social problems are linked to leadership decisions. And so once you start digging into it, it's just an abyss. There's no bottom.
I'll put one more thing up on the screen. If people are looking for stuff throughout the week, this is a cool website called citizenfreepress.com. And it looks really
Cool.
boring, but that's kind of the point of it. He editorializes a little. I'm assuming it's a he. I'm assuming gender. Shoot me. But it's just an aggregate of news stories, and it's nice and easy to view on your mobile device. And yeah, I like it because it's like no ads. It's not too flashy. It loads quickly, and it's like he does a good job of finding like pretty much the day's top stories.
Cool.
He doesn't
Wow,
sponsor
there's a
our
lot
show,
here.
but yeah, if I look at it like once in the morning and once in the evening, because I don't have time to like look on news sites, and I hate stuff popping up on my phone like notifications. So I just go on there, and I feel like he does a really good job of like across the spectrum. I'm sure he's conservative. I feel like it's heavily conservative angle. So if you're not into that, then maybe don't look at that page. But hey, I'm conservative, but I still look at CNN. So I mean,
I do too. I
it's
would
always
really
good to look
encourage
at the other end.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know. And, I won't say I was far on the left, but I do have a very, very liberal education, right? My bachelor's degree is in sociology, my master's degree is in social psychology. And so it's left leaning, and because I was in that world for so long, there was a lot outside of that world that I think I was pretty ignorant to. And I maybe did myself a disservice by not staying plugged in. Like you said, when you played Trump and a couple of people dropped off, that's embarrassing. Like I have like vicarious embarrassment because if you cannot level yourself out enough to like if you just can't even handle seeing the orange demon, like
Well, maybe we don't know why they dropped, but yeah, we dropped half. We
right.
lost half our viewers the moment I started playing Donald Trump. But I don't know how do you analyze that without enough data? But
I know.
maybe they dropped off because they're like, I already saw that press conference, or I already saw the
Yeah.
inauguration, and I've got dinner to cook. So who knows? But
I would just really encourage people, even if you don't like, I'm not a big Trump fan, but like if you don't watch this stuff, then all you're getting is secondhand information. You need to see it with your own eyes. That's what I had to do with a lot of the stuff on the left. That when it started becoming extreme, I didn't believe it was happening. And my friends were like, no, dude. And so I had to do my own research. And so I went on Twitter and I made a fake account and I followed a whole bunch of people that I would not normally want to listen to or hear from. And the rumors were true. It's wild. Stuff is it's so if you just have to see it with your own eyes because if you're not at least open to it, then when someone has a rebuttal for your opinion, you don't know enough about their position to even poke holes in it. All you can do is recite talking like news talking points. And that's not really like a well thought through, conversational strategy.
no. We got a comment here from Chris. Can you explain to me why our gas prices are so high compared to other cities like Florence? I believe Florence has a 1 hour direct path from Eugene from I-5, and I think that's what it is. We're like, I think it's like what's the closest? Roseburg is like an hour and 45 from here. Is the fastest a truck can get from I-5. So I think that's probably hurting us. But I don't know. Do you have? Yeah,
I don't
really
know. I wondered the exact same question myself, and I don't think we'll find out until we're actually in the belly of the beast. Like
Wow.
until we're actually, I think there's a lot of questions that we're not going to know the answer to until we're privy to getting the information
that-
ourselves.
I think it's trucks distance from I-5, and yeah, that's what it is.
I believe
think.
that's what I've been told as well.
I don't think
It
there's
is
any
weird, though.
additional tax. I don't think there's like a Coos County gas tax or anything like that. But
I don't think so either.
well, did you have anything else, or?
I don't have anything else to add. I still want to dig weaponized not for profit. So anytime you want to do a show around that, I have dug up a lot of stuff for that one.
All right, you'll have to we'll have a special.
Yeah,
You'll have to prepare.
like a Dateline.
There you go. Hey, we could do like additional shows like.
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I watch that Dateline NBC. Well, it's not Dateline NBC anymore. It's like Chris Hansen used to be on there and do like How to Catch a Predator. He has his own like network now, his own full TV network.
Oh, cool.
And he does a show called like Takedown with Chris Hansen. I cannot believe it. There's still morons out there who will try and hook up with young kids online, and he catches them all over the country, and it's insane. But I'm hoping to get him here because you gotta believe that there's people doing it out here.
Oh man, let's get him on the show.
That's for a whole nother show. But
Get Chris Hansen to come on.
that would be cool. Or to catch some people around here. I'm sure there's predators. Well, it was nice chatting with you, Brandy.
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool that we get to do this. See you, everybody. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.